Welcome to Annunciation Radio's Faith with Reasons, the program that examines what the church teaches and why. Faith with Reasons.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Faith with Reasons. Ron Finn and Shane Stanfield in studio to bring you show number 443. Can that be right?
I think we're counting down.
Yes, it could be. It could well be. And a wonderful day today. We started off with all that frost, and then we ended up with sunshine. And you start with the winter coat, and then you move to the spring jacket as you progress through the day. So we'll see what. I think we got more frost and freeze warnings.
I was just going to say, don't forget to pull the flowers in tonight.
Exactly, and yourselves as well. Not a good night for camping.
No,
I don't think.
No.
But, it is. We have been. Talking about having Father Brian Milady on, of course, the Open Line Thursday host on EWTN, and an author of a wonderful book called The Primer on Fundamental Moral Theology. I just spoke to him. He has to reschedule, so he's going to join us next week.
That's awesome.
Now, next week, I tried to tell him we're already booked for next week because we have the illustrious Matthew Archbold next week. So I called back. And he graciously, even though he's got to pick up his kids and can't stay the whole show, he's graciously agreed to last minute move to this week.
Well, Matt could bring his kids on air too. I mean, we can.
I'm sure they'd love that. Matthew Archbold, the creator of Creative Minority Report and author in his own right. Always a pleasure to have him on, and we look forward to having him on for Faith with Reasons, and of course our regular Thursday guest as we go through the mind of Matt Archbold each and every Thursday morning here on Annunciation Radio. Matt, thanks for coming on last minute. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. I got to admit, you've done 440-something of these shows. I've probably done about 8 of them with you. I can't imagine what you do without me.
I know, it's one of these days we'll get it right. We told ourselves going into this, we'll do the show, and then once we get it perfected, then we can talk about moving on to something else. And we haven't perfected it yet, so the show just keeps going. It's going from 2014 till now, and maybe next week.
And we're not in any danger of it yet.
No, not yet. I don't think so.
Well, I was just going to say, Matt, that number may sound small with regard to your presence on the show, but just consider it mortar between the bricks.
Ooh, there
you go. Oh, I like it. I like
that. And we've been nominated once again for a Peabody Award, so I'm happy to announce that.
That isn't because of me, that's for sure.
Matt, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you guys?
Terrific. You got you're doing the dad cab thing, right?
Yep, doing a daddy Uber, driving around different practices, and we just got the bad news. My wife. I'm pretty sure she loves me, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, 5 kids later, but she has a Jeep Grand Cherokee, 2014. She loves this Jeep. She absolutely loves it. And I got a call from the mechanic saying today, like, we gotta old yeller it at this point.
I was just gonna say they're gonna have to take it out back, put it to bed.
Yep, exactly. Take it behind the barn.
Yep.
And so now we're down one car, which Daddy Uber gets even busier now. But my wife will be in mourning, so say a prayer for my poor wife for so many reasons, but added on to the fact that she has to be married to me is her favorite car is gone.
I don't know who the patron saint of automotive distress is, but there probably is one. Probably find one out there somewhere. Well,
Matt, I went in this morning. I went to Mass this morning, and I prayed for the kids and for my wife, but I forgot to pray for the Jeep. So I guess this is really my fault.
Take your eye off the ball for 1 minute, and now they pronounced it. Oh, man.
Maybe you forgot to have it blessed in the beginning, or is that even possible?
That's right. Yeah.
Sure. I don't think that's a dealer option, but yeah.
No, it's not a dealer option.
Would you like the deluxe package?
That's right.
Of course, they charge you extra for that. You want a priest out here to bless this? So
yeah. I don't think I'd really trust some corporate blessing.
No, absolutely not.
I would get some Unitarian minister or something. That I feel. What do you believe? What are you blessing us with exactly? Let's just go into that.
Yeah. Exactly. Wow. All right. How's it going? Are you writing currently? Are you working on a book?
I am actually. I'm working on a. In fact, I was going to ask you. I might as well ask you now. That when I'm done with it, it's a Christian family adventure, very different from my previous books. But I was going to ask if I could send it to you, maybe for a look-see, and you could tell me what you thought's good, what you thought's bad, and so before I send it off to publishers, I could have some good feedback.
I would love that. I always enjoy your books. Are there any pictures in it?
I can draw some.
Okay.
Is it a coloring book? I'll be happy to give it a try.
When I used to write for, what was it, the Catholic Digest, that was one of my favorite things to do. The Catholic Digest was a great publication.
Those are wonderful stories that you wrote for Catholic Digest, too.
Yeah, I love those. And but one week I put in, so I essentially said, becoming a parent is essentially you're going through different phases of monster. You know, at one point you become a zombie because the kid's not letting you sleep. And then, you know, you're awake all night, so you're like a vampire and you try to sleep during the day. And then in the end, you're a ghost as your children, you know, become teenagers and want nothing to do with you and don't talk to you. Mm-hmm. But for the magazine, I had my kids draw the pictures. And so it was the only Matt Archbold column that had pictures of zombies and ghosts and things. And, you know, as a parent, you tend to overestimate your children a little bit because the Catholic Digest got these pictures and they couldn't make hide nor hair of them. They told me my children were such bad artists that they literally couldn't run them. And my kids were so excited about it that they were going to have their pictures, you know, in this, you know, magazine, and
Published
they were so
artwork,
excited.
Yeah.
Oh, it was devastating. I had to keep it from them, you know.
Oh my! So you left the digest in a huff then?
No, I accepted the fact that my children have limitations rather graciously and moved on. But eventually, because of that, God eventually struck them down 6 years later. And
yeah. Getting out while the getting's good.
But there were so, you know, a couple of years ago, before, there were so many Catholic publications that were still, you know, you could receive in the mail. There still are some, but so many of them have gone just online. It's a shame. I used to really enjoy getting it and being able to read it on the couch, and you know, there was something wonderful about that.
Yeah, and the only good news in all of that is, those stopped. Most of those stopped, but then, you know, so we were forced to read like the daily newspaper, but those have stopped now too. So you can't even really read a newspaper hardly anymore.
Right.
So what I try and do is I like bring home restaurant menus. Gotta read something with my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know.
You know, you could just go to the diner and just hang out there instead of stealing them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then you got to leave a tip and all that.
That's true. That's true. That is true.
Anyhow, looking over Creative Minority Report, always a lot of great stuff on there. And some good news to report. In North Dakota, the governor there has signed a wonderful bill.
Yeah, don't you think North Dakota signed a pro-life bill which essentially banned most abortions for up to 6 weeks, and after 6 weeks, I mean, of course. And that's a victory. And that's one thing we don't do very well. We don't cherish our victories. We don't cheer for our victories. You know, we tend to just say, okay, that's good, and on to the next state. We got to keep moving. And I think as pro-lifers, we really have to celebrate when a state does something wonderful like this, because the thinking is, this is North Dakota. We're supposed to win here. But it's like we all have a favorite team. They're supposed to win certain games, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we won this one. Let's take a moment to appreciate that one state in the union agrees that life is sacred and it should be protected. And that is wonderful, wonderful news.
And you occasionally hear people will even be discouraged because it wasn't good enough, and I'm not sure, complaining about that is appropriate. Like you say, I mean, it is good that at least something was done here, and it is positive, regardless that there's loopholes or there's, the maybe the age or the circumstances or something are continue to be permitted. But in a state that didn't have any such legislation at all, it's something that still needs to be applauded.
Absolutely. That happens all the time, where the perfect becomes the enemy of the good. And instead of just taking a victory, and it's not perfect. But life here is never going to be perfect. We're struggling. And so we've taken so many bad losses these last, 50 years, So, when Dobbs got overturned and the battle went back to the states, there's going to be wins and losses. We have to celebrate whatever victories we get, even if it's just cutting it back a little bit. We can't get dispirited, because if it's always bad news, if it's always, we didn't get what we wanted, people are going to get dispirited.
And the fact is,
we have to trumpet it.
And the fact is, there will be lives saved with this. Maybe not as many, but there are lives that are going to be saved, and there's certainly value in that. Now, I'd like to ask you, though, I mean, there's been a lot of activity like this in various states. Are there any states in particular that you were surprised that either haven't acted or have gone in the opposite direction?
Well, Florida recently went the right way, but there was some, there was a lot of talk, just like you said, that it didn't go far enough. But there were some, I'm blanking on some states right now,
mm-hmm.
but there were some red states that had, nominally pro-life governors that they didn't sign it, or they had a referendum and it went way against us because so much money was spent against us.
Yeah.
And we didn't rally to that the way we should have. They demonized us. They demonized pro-lifers, that we were going to ban abortion for all women for all time. And yes, that would eventually be the goal. But really what we want is to make abortion unthinkable for people.
Oh, yeah.
Make it so that they won't even consider it. And I think that's where we have to get to. It is a hearts and minds situation. And look, that as the church, that's what we specialize in.
Oh, yeah.
Hearts, minds, and souls. Let's go to work, church. Let's start preaching the word. Let's start talking about love and how we are all have a soul and that life is sacred. And I've always said the moment you don't admit that life is priceless, you're just haggling over the cost.
Oh, absolutely. You have also, it's not necessarily legislation, but you see these efforts with politicians, judges, and whatnot, these activities that are in these various states that that they're working behind the scenes to take advantage of these situations to perhaps overturn or even create adversarial laws, such as the case of Wisconsin. We had this race that some hoped was going to be successful, and was, from what I understand, was more of a blowout in the opposite direction with this Supreme Court judge. And you bring up a great point that there's so much money that's spent to really change people's minds about what is at stake. This just reminds me of an NPR. Not that I ever listened to NPR, but I saw a clip of something that NPR had done in one of these states that had a newly enacted a pro-life law that, of course, was against abortion. The NPR had to take advantage of this to make a story that some woman was being brought to near death because she couldn't have an abortion. And they cited a case where something with the uterus or something had cells that could potentially develop into cancer cells. but it was life-threatening for the mother. And the fact that they called the surgery to take care of that an abortion, which it's not. Which it's not. The fact that they are, that was from beginning to end in this news article, it was astonishing to me, because it was a deliberate manipulation of the facts. And for somebody that doesn't know, somebody who doesn't have any medical experience, they read something like this, and all of a sudden they're saying, "Well, this is horrible," because somebody's life is going to be taken because she can't have this life-saving abortion. And again, it's not an abortion, to do the procedure that was necessary to take care of this problem with uterus.
Right. It would be treatment for to help save the mother from the malady that was afflicting her.
Yes.
It wouldn't be an abortion.
That's right.
And it is such a shame. The one thing I'll say is that the past, 5 years, the one great thing that's come out of this is the lines have been drawn so clearly. The media has chosen a side, and it is now has made themselves. They have refashioned themselves into a propaganda arm. Yes. Of secular leftists, and it is so clear now. No one can question that anymore, and that is one great thing that's happened over the past 5 years. That no one can question this anymore. You read an article like that, and it just is so unconcerned with truth, and more concerned with the propaganda use of that article. And that's what it's all about. And now we know. And that is why shows like this are so crucial. And newspapers like the National Catholic Register are so important.
Yes.
Because that's how we get our news out. That's how we speak to one another. And websites, it's so important because we do not have access to the mainstream media like the other side does. We don't. We have to reach out in every possible way. And I know it is so difficult sometimes. I have a sister-in-law who will talk to me about this sometimes, that she loses friends every time she talks about being pro-life. And she becomes gun-shy about talking about it because these are actual friends. These are people she cares about who get very upset with her when she talks about it, and she feels bad. But the truth is the truth. And you're actually helping them in the long run, whether they know it or not. You're exposing them to a creed of love, redemption, and forgiveness. You're not spreading darkness,
which is what a true friend should do.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the other.
Yeah, but between politics and media, I mean, it's all about dividing, and we know who's responsible, who's at the helm of all of that, who's driving the boat on all of this. The evil one is working with whatever means is available to him, and boy, it's effective.
Yep, nonstop.
You even saw that, and the fact that we're talking about it is not a surprise to anyone. But Tucker Carlson the other day, obviously he's in the news right now.
Sure.
He gave a speech at Heritage.
I saw that.
And he essentially said, the battle in America today is spiritual, and it is between good and evil. And I've always said the divide in our country is not red versus blue. It's God-fearing and God-loathing.
Yeah. I like the part in that speech that he gave that, he encouraged people to take 10 minutes and to pray each day. And he says he's not an evangelist, he's an Episcopalian. but he said, if it's obvious to me, it should be obvious to most people that 10 minutes a day, at least 10 minutes a day, is worthwhile. And it should be done. And I commended him for that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I heard someone on, I think it was Catholic Answers, said, if you're not saying the rosary every day, as Mary asked us to at Fatima, then you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that I felt at that moment convicted, because I did the rosary when I needed something. You know what I mean? It was like standing in line, asking for something. But and ever since then, I've really made the effort to say the Rosary daily. And it puts and it's not about me, but it puts me in a better place every single day. That it makes me better, and that's not the goal, but it's certainly a nice consequence.
Absolutely, and it's amazing how much better the day goes just with your whole frame of mind when you just begin, even with a short prayer. I mean, if the first thing you think about when you get up is, well, good morning, God. Thank you for letting me wake up this morning.
Yeah.
Start it with some sort of an attitude of gratitude and really pray for those in your life that need prayers. And boy, the rest of the day just seems to go so much better. You just start off on the right foot.
And at your age, it really is like a surprise party every time you wake up.
That's right. That's right. It's like, wow, how did I get here? Thanks, God. What are you, not paying attention or what?
It becomes more and more evident that there is mercy,
Right. Yeah. You still haven't gotten this right. I'm going to leave you on the earth a few more months. Now, come on. Now, get it right now. Finally.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point, and maybe somebody would be asking, how do I spend 10 minutes of my day praying, particularly if they don't know how to pray? But, your advice about at least praying a rosary is something that they don't have to do on their own. They could learn to pray it. It's there. And just going through it is step one.
Yeah, one thing I do is I do it in the car. I'll put on on YouTube, so people saying the Rosary, and I'll just have it playing, and I'll just say it as I'm driving, because I do drive the kids so much around so much, and it's funny because the rule is, and a lot of times 2 kids will come out that one of them I don't know because they need a ride home, and my kids always offer, which is great because I never want to leave a kid somewhere else. But the rule is the Rosary is being said, so you might as well buckle in and say it. And and the kids know it. That's the rule in the Archbold, man. You say the Rosary.
Well, I don't know how you don't get pushback though, because my kids get in the car and I'm listening to something religious or anything, and they always want to change it.
Oh, I know.
Can we listen to some music?
I know. My kids have begun to recoil if they hear Scott Hahn's voice.
Yeah.
No!
Yeah. I don't want to hear this.
I've always used the extra decade threat. If you're going to complain, we're going to throw an extra decade in there.
That's right. I'll come up with a whole new mystery just to make you upset.
That's right. Oh, my. Matt, your books, just so if people haven't picked it up, American Antigone, and boy, what a landmark book that is. And every time, there's so much in the news about the abortion fascism that's going on, that's being pushed on everybody. And this is a novel, it's fiction, but it's really a wonderful read, and it really makes you think. So I encourage people to pick that up, American Antigone. And I still love to pick up Faith Under Fire, Dramatic Stories of Christian Courage. You're profiling 18 different people, Christian men, women, and children who choose to do what they know to be right, even if everybody else hates them for it. And that's a fascinating read as well. So between that and Creative Minority Report and the things that are happening all around you, I don't know. You're really in high demand, aren't you?
Yeah. The amazing thing about those stories are about, even the fiction one, but Faith Under Fire especially. They're about normal people who stood up when everything was on the line, and that's what really intrigues me, is that bravery. And but it's still happening. It's happening everywhere. It doesn't get covered ever. But you have there's a Utah state senator whose home is being vandalized after he introduced a bill banning child mutilation, trans surgeries.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is just common sense. I mean, my goodness, under 18, you can't get a tattoo, you can't vote. Oh, but you know what? You can vote, you can mutilate yourself. That makes zero sense. And these people are attacking his home where his wife and kids are. And, that's great. That's beautiful. Someone standing up to that. And then you have an Olympian talking about the fact that trans athletes are running as females and, it's wrong and unfair. Now, I guarantee you this person knew that they were stepping on a landmine when they did that. They knew what was going to happen. I mean, J.K. Rowling was a darling of the left. Yeah. And she has been, they've done everything they can to destroy that woman.
She's put out to the curb,
Absolutely. So you know what you're getting when you stand up, but yet somehow people are still doing it. They still stand up, like Riley Gaines, the swimmer, and she talks about her faith quite a bit, which is wonderful, and that it drives her. But it's truly amazing how much courage is out there, and the grace that is afforded to those who step out. Because she said, she's never been more fulfilled than fighting this fight. This is a swimmer who was going for national championships, and she's saying that this is the fight that she's meant for. Mm-hmm. And that's amazing. I'm just bowled over by people like that who risk everything for what they know is right.
And she certainly didn't plan on doing this. And I think she instantly found a vocation. She's admitted that in more words than one.
Yeah, in fact, when she first was asked, she gave the mealy mouth thing, on that day, saying, we all support. And then later she kind of went back and said, actually, you know what? They kind of pushed us all into saying that, but that's not the truth. And, and she goes to colleges now, and she's shouted down. They throw things at her. They punch her. They push her, you read American Antigone. How similar is that to that one of those final scenes in the book? It's exactly that. That's exactly how it happens.
Yeah, it's not enough to disagree. You have to also what would be the word? You have to attack. You have to be in the attack mode. You have to do damage. You have to put that down. My goodness, if they don't subscribe to my ideology, they're dismissed, they're canceled, they're even damaged.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good when people push back and like Riley Gaines, to draw strength on that. All right, well, Matt, it's been all too brief, but I know you got places to go and people to see.
Say hi to the kids.
I will.
Yeah.
God bless, guys.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate that. Don't forget to head over to creativeminorityReport.com and listen for Matt Archbold tomorrow morning on Morning Offer.
Right. See you in the morning.
Carry the home missions close to your heart by downloading the free Glen Mary Home Missioners mobile app. Glen Mary brings the Catholic faith to rural parts of Appalachia in the South where it is not effectively present. The free Glen Mary app is a one-stop shop to access daily reflections written by missioners, prayer resources, and information about mission in the United States. The app is available for iPhones and Androids. To download, search Glen Mary in your mobile device's app store or visit glenmary.org/app. That's glenmary.org/app.
Hi, this is Father Nathan Cromley, the founder and president of the St. John Institute. I'm so excited about what's going on. We have an opportunity today to form young people with the savvy of doing great business while at the same time the devotion of living great lives of faith. At the St. John Institute, we take young people who want to live an exceptional life and do something with meaning for the rest of their life, and we empower them with a deep personal formation to integrate faith, business, prayer, community life, and culture. At the St. John Institute, we'll be giving out graduates who want to work opening new ministries for the church or bringing life to existing ministries. Learn more at stjohninstitute.org. That's SAINT johninstitute.org.
Every weekday afternoon at 3, join us for our live and interactive Divine Mercy Chaplet. Do you have something or someone you're praying for? Imagine the power of hundreds of people praying for your intention. We have several ways for you to share your request. You can visit our app and go to the prayer request button, send an email to chapletprayer@gmail.com, or call our prayer request line at 419-868-2966. Here at Annunciation Radio, we're praying for you.
Now, back to Faith with Reasons here on Annunciation Radio.
Hey, welcome back here. Shane Stanfield here with Ron Finn. We had Matt Archbold, our previous half hour, and we got a chance to discuss with him some of the stories he's covering on the Creative Minority Report, and I think we can talk about some of those stories here a little bit because we only had Matt for the first half hour. We would have loved to have him for the whole hour.
Glad he was available for the first half hour. We, as you've been hearing, we've been promoting Father Brian Milady was scheduled to be on today, but he needed at the last minute to reschedule. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have him on next week.
Yep.
Now we were going to have Matt Archbold on next week, but we got him this weekend. So we just flipped him. So that works out.
And we'll take a half hour, even though we had just had that half hour. We'll take it.
Absolutely. There's a lot to ruminate over there. We've been, of course, very blessed in our diocese to have the first-class relics of Blessed Carlo Acutis and St. Manuel Gonzalez Garcia. These are the patrons of the Eucharistic Revival, of the National Eucharistic Revival. And the diocesan year wraps up in June, and then the parish year begins from that point on. What the diocese has done, they've put together evenings of Eucharistic Revival gatherings with Bishop Daniel Thomas. The final one of those is coming up on Sunday with Bishop Daniel E. Thomas, and that's going to be at St. John the 23rd in Perrysburg. But the first-class relics continue. They were Monday at Edgerton St. Mary's, Tuesday at St. Michael the Archangel in Findlay, and then tonight at St. John all day today, really, at St. John the Evangelist in Delphus. Now, tomorrow, April 27th, the first-class relics will be there at Sacred Heart in Bethlehem, and then on Friday at Saints Peter and Paul Sandusky. Saturday, wrapping it up, the final day is this Saturday, and that's going to be at Christ the King in Toledo. So just like with the evenings of Eucharistic Revival gatherings, there are 19 counties in our diocese. There are 15 deaneries, and obviously you can't hit each one. So they tried to strategically schedule all of these events to be close enough between two deans or deaneries so that people don't have to travel too far.
And that's wonderful because this is possibly a once in a lifetime experience for somebody to come this close to each of these individuals. I have a little story to share with you that unfortunately we missed seeing Blessed Carlo on our pilgrimage in Italy at Christmas time. And it was rather unfortunate because of some health problems of mine. We had to part from the group only for a couple of hours, and it was at the time that they were going to go up the hill, and that was part of the problem, going up the hill for me. But by the time that we were able to continue with the tour, we were on our own. We did see a couple of more churches, but it was the church that contains his body, and I guess it's on display. We missed. I'm pretty sure we walked past it, but if you've ever been to this area, it's like a church on every corner, so you don't know that
you don't know who's in what.
Yeah. And I'm trying to do searches frantically to find out if we were in the right place, but I blew that one. So, but I was close, so I guess it counts. But some people don't have the opportunity to make such a trip.
Right.
Even though if you do, I would highly encourage doing a pilgrimage and doing it through Catholic journeys, faith journeys, and experiencing this firsthand. But I do believe this is the next best thing. And your pilgrimage, like you said, is easy to do because they've made it convenient for those. Our diocese is pretty big.
So don't miss that opportunity. And what's interesting too, it's not this cookie cutter format which you could easily do. I mean, you could have a planned program that you duplicate in each area, but they don't do that. It's a little different in each one.
Oh, wow.
So it's many people are traveling to all of them and getting a little different experience each time. But you're certainly going to learn a lot more about these two saints of the Eucharist. Manuel Gonzalez Garcia, the apostle of the abandoned tabernacle, as he's known. And, of course, we're learning a lot about Blessed Carlo and Saint Garcia as well. So, take advantage of this unique opportunity that's happening here in our diocese.
Well, absolutely. And what a wonderful devotional to be able to follow them around as they're traveling the diocese. So.
Absolutely. As we were scanning the news, we just kind of cover a few of the items that I think have been top of mind this week. We heard early in the week about the president of the Pontifical Academy for Life, Archbishop, I don't know if it's Paglia or Paglia, Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, who really came out as seemingly defending legalizing medically assisted suicide in Italy, which I thought was very, very puzzling. Obviously, church teaching is quite clear on this, and this runs counter to it. And here he is, running the Pontifical Academy for pro-life.
So what is interesting about him is, at least it's my understanding, I don't know this as fact, but this man is being president of the Pontifical Academy, but he's more of a politician, isn't he?
I believe so.
It's more or less.
I'm not sure how all of that works, especially in different countries and different areas.
Yeah.
But, he issued a statement on Monday, but that was obviously followed by an outcry over a speech in which he defended legalizing medically assisted suicide in Italy, calling it a feasible approach to the issue in Italian society, despite the Church's clear teachings against it. Now, the Pontifical Academy for Life has kind of they've responded a bit to the outcry, that's really happened, and has said that the president is against assisted suicide, but thinks it is possible to have, quote, a legal initiative that would allow it to be decriminalized in Italy under specific and particular conditions. I don't feel much comfort in that statement, to be honest with you. No.
And I think what we talked a little bit about this earlier, if it's known or it becomes known, at this point virtually worldwide now, that it's gotten so much press, that it's created more scandal than anything else, one would think that they would want to go out and want to provide as much clarification as possible that, this individual misspoke. This is not what he intended to say. And of course, he's going to uphold church teaching. However they want to spin this, you would think there'd be some sort of attempt at doing that. Now, Ron, you said that they did attempt to clarify, but the reasoning wasn't much more clear.
Yeah, and that their quote, on a scientific and cultural level, Archbishop Paglia has always advocated the need for accompaniment toward the sick and terminal phases of life based on palliative care and proximity, so that no one is left alone in the face of illness and suffering in the difficult decisions they entail. Now, of course, Italy's constitutional court as recently as last year, blocked a referendum to decriminalize physician-assisted suicide in the country, stating that a repeal of the existing criminal law would leave the country without, quote, the constitutionality necessary minimum protection of human life in general, and with particular reference to weak and vulnerable persons. So they're recognizing that that's a pretty slippery slope.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I guess what I was asking before, because obviously he is an archbishop, so I mean he should be he should be an archbishop before he's more of a politician, but it seems like the role that this office plays is involved potentially more in politics, like you just mentioned. There's some influence here based on what's taking place in the current affairs of the Italian government, that it may be critical that there might be people in the government that that are asking for some sort of you don't know, but you would have to suspect that there's some sort of political influence here, inappropriate, of course. I mean, there's really no place for that to be in the church, and I do know there are a lot of people at the USCCB that tend not to say anything because for the sole reason that they don't want to dive into politics, and that there's others that tend to be very political and they don't mind it because they think there's a place for leadership in the church to speak out. But here's a case where there seems to be it appears to be, to me, some sort of collusion going on perhaps supporting whatever the Italian government may want to do with this, and that's rather unfortunate.
But again, church teaching is clear, and I think the Vatican has spoken
absolutely
with clarity about this very issue, and these statements that have been made.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how this plays out. And again, we don't really. It's almost difficult to get too deeply involved because you don't know the whole, who said what and
right.
when, what's taking place now. There's a lot we don't know, but boy, what we do know is kind of disturbing, that's for sure. On the other hand, there's a lot of good news out there. There's a survey of new priests that have come out. This is in the Catholic News Agency that says most of them pray the rosary, they go to Eucharistic adoration, and their parents stay married. So more than 450 men are set to be ordained priests this year, and the survey of their ordination class shows that the overwhelming majority of priests to be were raised Catholic in intact families and individually showed habits of frequent church service and regular prayer life. So, and they are among the 450 that are being ordained this year.
Wow. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, and we have so many wonderful priests here on our own diocese. We have a transitional diaconate ordination coming up very soon. Mm-hmm. So there will be two that are on the path to priesthood, and will be, God willing, ordained as priests next year. But they enter the transitional diaconate May 20th. Bishop Daniel Thomas ordaining Christopher Turner and Jacob Levecki to the transitional diaconate. So we keep them in our prayers as well, and God willing, an ordination of those two to the priesthood next year.
Oh, absolutely. Do we know where they're serving currently?
I don't know where. I don't know.
I think they do serve as seminarians. Yeah.
I have to look that up. ToledoPriesthood.org is a great place to keep tabs on such
Nice.
things.
Well, while you're looking that up, I do want to make a plug for Matt. He was so gracious to come in at the last minute to speak with us during the first half hour because of the rather unfortunate circumstances with Father Milady having to reschedule. But he is on regularly on our morning program to cover. We've been talking about basically news, church-related news, or news of Catholic interest at this half hour, and he tends to do that in a great way. For those of you that don't know, to visit his writings, it's almost like a blog that's done daily. With regard to what's in the news, current stories of interest at Creative Minority Report. Again, it's Creative Minority Report, where Matt gives us his take on current events or the news of the day. Sometimes he posts several articles in any given day. And we mentioned earlier we have this news out of North Dakota. We've got a pro-life bill that was recently enacted. That's great. There is also mentioned, I believe, for the first half hour, we have this Olympian that made this statement, this public statement that I think Matt defined it as a bomb. I mean, you're really stepping in it when you make a public statement today. But we have this Olympian that's really speaking out that says that athletes that are running as trans athletes that are running as females in the London Marathon is wrong and unfair. So you'll find these and others there at Creative Minority Report. And every now and then you can see Matt's humor. We have one article here that simply makes reference to what he calls unprecedented climate change, which has caused the sea level at the Sydney Harbor to rise approximately 0.0 centimeters over the past 140 years. Yes. And his only comment about that was, "Heh."
Yeah, that works.
But, these are things that obviously you don't see, covered in the daily news, because the daily news is trying to push this idea that, the world's coming to an end. We've supposedly done something to the world's climate, and it's always we. We've somehow, and of course they know exactly how we've done it, and we've got so many years to stop it. And then you occasionally hear that we can't stop it. There's nothing we can do, but we've got to change the way we live, because we just have to change it. Yeah. And that never makes any sense. Yeah. But then you have this little known fact that, the sea levels have risen 0.0 centimeters over the last 140 years, and that should be a head scratcher, because there's so much news out there that says, that the ocean levels have been rising. Of course, you hear that our hurricanes are worse because ocean levels are taller than what they used to be, and there's areas that can't be inhabited anymore because the ocean has crept in, and you have to ask yourself how that is when you have news like this.
Well, you don't want to dig too much into facts, because it could mess up the whole thing.
Inconvenient facts.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. And there's a lot of great stories on there. And what I like about the way Matt writes, because there's always so much turmoil going on, there's so many outrageous things, but he presents them in not making fun of necessarily, but almost in a lighthearted way, so that it's more accessible. It's not like your furrowed brow is reading this in anxiety, because you're reading bad news. He's presenting it, and you can still smile while you're reading it.
Well, and you may be aware of this news, and you might be angry because of it. In many cases, it's rightfully so. I mean, it's something that should make you angry, and that you read Matt's take on this, he has the ability to turn that into smile, like you said, because it's more of a lighthearted take. So, encourage anybody that has heard Matt speak or hearing about us talk about him now, encourage you to go out to Creative Minority Report. And you do it on a regular basis, because, again, he posts multiple times per day. I think there were 4 postings just today alone. So there's a lot there to see. And, of course, he mentioned the last half hour about Tucker Carlson. And that's been a pretty big deal. Yeah. Because that seems, although I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to be rather scandalous, because I don't think that anybody knows exactly why that took place. And
it was close on the heels of that $746 million settlement.
That might have had something to do with it.
Pretty much stemmed from his show, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's going to end up probably in a more lucrative place.
Oh yeah.
And a great speech that he's just given. But there's a lot to keep an eye on. Keeping our eye on the ball here, and. He also, Matt was talking about the value of Catholic media, and I think it's gotten so much more in depth, so much better. EWTN News Nightly, for example.
Yes,
man, I would rather listen and watch that
instead of the three letter nightly news.
There's a story that they're not covering, on the major networks, and it's an important story, and they talk to the people that can explain it to us. So I love the fact that they're a little more in depth. When you read the stories, online too, they're not snippets; they're full stories.
Yeah,
you get the whole background. So that's a wonderful thing.
And it's safe to say that whatever you watch there is accurate, certainly well done, and it's always from a Catholic perspective. And that I think that should be important for all of us faithful in what we watch, because we should be looking at all news from the lens of the teachings of the Catholic Church.
Another story that I think is in today's Catholic news agency, the Vatican's Dicastery for the Laity, Family, and Life, is preparing a document addressing divorced and remarried couples. This is at the request of Pope Francis. And Cardinal Kevin Farrell is the dicastery's prefect, and he mentioned the in-progress document in a speech delivered in Italian April 22nd that opened a meeting of the dicastery, which promotes the pastoral care of the family and the mission of the lay faithful. Farrell spoke about the importance of providing help and guidance to those experiencing marital crises of all kinds. And he says on this front, the dicastery is also working on the preparation of a text that will specifically concern, as you wished, Your Holiness, men and women who, having a failed marriage behind them, live in new unions. So it hasn't been disclosed when this document will be released, but they're working on it now. And, of course, in a recent interview, Pope Francis responded to a question about whether divorced and remarried Catholics could receive the Eucharist by saying, "We cannot reduce a human situation to a prescriptive one." So in the interview, Pope Francis advised looking to what his predecessor, Benedict XVI, said on the subject of annulments, affirming that a large part of church marriages are invalid for lack of faith. And I know Pope Francis himself has tried to streamline the annulment process. It's not so long of a wait, and it makes it more accessible, less expensive, and so forth.
So this there was something that I had read earlier, and I don't think I have what I read earlier in front of me, but I thought there was some sort of a controversy regarding this process, or there was something that had to do with this cardinal. But this is an attempt, though, or it's at least perceived as an attempt to clarify what Pope Francis has previously said. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's kind of responding a bit to what the Holy Father has said, so they're working on this document, and we'll see where that goes. But, sometimes, according to them, sometimes one goes to a wedding and it seems more like it's a social reception and not a sacrament. According to Pope Francis has said this, what a wonderful observation that is. So whether young people say forever, who knows what they mean by forever?
Yeah. No, that's quite true. Yeah, quite true.
And I know in marriage prep has not always been so hot. I mean, when you figure you're in a seminarian, for example, take you 8 years to go through, and even to become a permanent deacon. It's a number of years that you're investing.
Absolutely.
And you do a couple of weekends and you're ready for your wedding day.
Yeah.
So, and many dioceses have kind of revamped what they're doing. In fact, our own diocese, there's a template that was created by one of our own priests that's being used in various dioceses now that expands that process and really addresses some key issues.
I heard a priest talk about this and put it along the lines of, look, I'm just by myself. It's just me, myself, and I. I mean, that requires a certain amount of training, and he said, I can't imagine, committing to a lifelong commitment, much like the priesthood. And it's of celibacy. I mean, you're with a single individual, okay, and you are making a commitment to be with that individual for the rest of your life. And it's not me, myself, and I. It's living for, out of love, the other person. And he said that it was baffled that there wasn't more effort put into training on the vocation of marriage because he thought it was so much more in depth, so much more of a preparation is needed in that sort of thing. And I do believe that it needs to be there needs to be more help in that area. My wife and I are participating in the marriage prep. At least through our parish, and it's not just a parish thing, but I do know it's part of the diocese program, and I think the program that they offer is excellent. I mean, I am pleased to see what they're doing today compared to what we went through years ago, because what little I remember what we went through years ago was not impressive. Otherwise, I would have remembered it.
You're right.
Yeah. Right. So the material today. Is quite good, and I know the folks that they have speaking, and I'm not speaking for us, but I'm speaking of the others that speak during this weekend retreat do a fantastic job.
You know, and I think back on my own wedding, and I think almost any couple could say this. You feel like you're ready to get married. You know, you're in love. Whatever the level of understanding is, you're committed to spend the rest of your life with that spouse.
Yeah.
And then you get married. And then, you know, in that first year, it's like, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. How did you react that way? I didn't think you would react that. What did I do? You know, you get all kinds of, you hit all kinds of bumps along the way.
Absolutely.
Because you're not prepared for them.
Yeah.
You're still infatuated. But your level of love, your depth of love, hasn't matured yet.
How many years for you?
We just celebrated on April 4th, 47 years.
47 years, and I bet that you will admit that you're still learning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which says a lot. Which absolutely says a lot. 47 years with someone, and you think you know that person, and you're still learning. Yeah,
and I'm amazed we got through, past the first 5 years, to be honest with you.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it's a challenge. You're adjusting to another person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think about that aspect.
And then you throw kids into the mix.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So,
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, the more you get into it and participate in these programs and really prepare for this vocation. Mm-hmm. It's not an event; it's a vocation.
Well, but I wouldn't trade my marriage for anything. It's been the best experience in my life. Just in case my wife is listening, and I hope she is. So, love you, honey.
That's right. Oh my! Tomorrow night, by the way, it's too late to get in on it because we've already, ordered all the dinners. Mm-hmm. But tomorrow night is the 100th birth anniversary celebration.
Quite a celebration.
Mother Angelica.
Yeah.
Mother Mary Angelica. And we're going to have some great speakers. Father Joseph Wolf will be there. And, of course, in the order that she found it there. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you hear him on EWTN all the time. And he's going to be really sharing some great insights. Jack Williams, the president of EWTN Radio, will be there, too. He's got some great stories. Dave Vasher has spent many years with Mother. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a great evening, and we're going to record those talks.
I was just going to ask if we were going to...
We're going to record those. We may not put them on the air because they'll be lengthy, but we will make them available online.
Just going to ask if they'll be made available, because that'd be great. If you're unable to make it tomorrow, then please at least have a listen to what's been recorded, because it should be a great evening.
Should be fun. Thank you, Matt Archbold, for joining us last minute. Father Brian Milady, we'll talk to him next week. Mm-hmm. This same station, same time. Yeah, and Shane and I were talking, for the second half of the show. We thought about just cold calling people, and getting people on the air.
I suggested prank calling. That could have been fun, but it is.
Thanks for joining us for Faith with Reasons here on Annunciation Radio.
God bless.